Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect podcast. I am your host, Naveen Ganglani. It's funny that we're doing a podcast recording, especially for those watching live right now, and it's daytime. You can see the natural light coming in. It's not like a late night podcast recording that we've been doing after the UAAP games the last few weeks. But really, just thank you. That's what I want to say first before we get to this episode. Thank you to all our viewers, whether those who watched or listened to the podcast on playback, on YouTube, on Facebook, or even on Twitter and Spotify, of course, for just being so game and being so, you know, loyal to the podcast, shall I say, over the last few weeks, paying attention to listening to what we have to say, not only from myself, but also from guests such as Simon and Nico, and even someone like Edward who came in during the season. I'm just taking this time before we get started on this episode to really show some gratitude to everyone for what I would say was the most successful UAAP season so far for the podcast. Not only in terms of views, but also in terms of just recognition. I feel like this UAAP season, more than the last few seasons, I had people coming up to me at the games, at the after party, even players, coaches, parents of players who were like, "Oh, we watched the podcast, we listened to the podcast, love what you have to say." Of course, there are also the critics online who love to stay anonymous and give their piece, acting all tough and whatnot. But it comes with the territory. I understand that. Long story short, I know I'm rambling here a little bit. Thank you. Just a lot of gratitude for all of you. And as a display of that gratitude from my part, instead of taking a break from the podcast after the last episode with Simon, I said, why not have two more episodes before the year ends? Just to give some good content people out there might enjoy. And also because, I didn't want to get sapangs from the podcast just yet, selfishly too. I wanted to do this for fun. So today, Sunday, December 22, we are going to talk to Maui Yap of the Boleros podcast, another awesome UAP podcast online. We are going to do an early preview of UAP Season 88. Is it going to be a UP versus LaSalle Finals rematch once again? We'll find out. Or can someone like a UST or an NU perhaps, Ateneo, crash the party and maybe make the final four? Oh, let's not forget about FEU. They got some young guys on the rise. How about UE and Adamson? Can they defy expectations once again? And in the case of the Adamson fans online, make sure to send comments my way on my Facebook page to say, guess what? You slept on us. You slept on us. We'll see. A lot to unpack. Can't wait to get into it. Player recruitment, commitments, coaching changes, and all that jazz. And then on Monday, tomorrow, fingers crossed, assuming everything goes according to plan, we are going to have a UAP player on the podcast. I won't spoil it just yet. I want it to be a bit of a surprise. That's at 9 a.m. though. It's gonna be early. I know many of you are going to be asleep since it's the holidays. So if you guys catch that podcast episode on replay instead, well, that's totally all right. But I hope you guys have fun and hopefully it does push through. And because if it does, I think it's going to be a really insightful, good episode. But for now, Season 88 early preview. We're starting in a bit. Maui app of Boleros coming on. Don't go anywhere. We are going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are now joined by Maui Yap of the Boleros podcast. Maui's here. Thank you so much, Maui, for taking your time and joining us on this podcast to do an early preview of UAAP season 88. It's never too early to get excited about UAAP basketball. So, two things, Maui, before we get started on season 88, season magic numbers, as I'm going to be calling them in advance. Why don't you tell our listeners, first of all, what were your thoughts about how season 87 unfolded? And number two, why don't you tell everyone where to cop those awesome looking Boleros caps and t shirts?
Yeah. Thanks, Nabs, for inviting me again. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I had a problem with my headset. But yeah, regarding the previous season, I expected UP or LaSalle to come out on top. I think everybody expected that. We were lucky to get 3 games again for this season. It was really we really didn't know who would win. I think that's the best thing that could happen for us when we get an UAAP finals, diba? It was against UP and LaSalle. We knew that they would make the finals, but we didn't know who would win. LaSalle UP was dominant during the preseason. LaSalle was dominant during the season. And then we got 3 games, diba? And I think that's the best that we could ask for. And it wasn't like the previous season, diba? During the previous season, the finals, there was I think 2 blowout games, games 1 and 2. This finals, all 3 games were tightly contested, I would say. But very lucky for us to get. This is probably a rivalry starting to really unfold. Back to back seasons during the finals, not just in the UAAP, but also during the preseason. Diba? During the Phil Oil and I think Pinoy Liga, they also faced during the finals. Happy. I'm a bit happy and sad because Kevin Kiambao is going pro, 'di ba? Even if I was an Atenean, I've loved seeing how the growth in his game, how he has been able to shatter yung playing a big man and then transforming to a wing player. I'm excited to see what's going to happen, especially for a lot of UP players who could potentially get the same opportunity as JD Kagulangan did also this off season. But yeah, basically that's it for UAP season 86. It was a bang, I would say. Very good season. Despite the 2 favorites really showing their might the whole season. I loved how it was very challenging to get to the final four. I think it's the first time that we've seen a team finish the season at number 3 but only at a 500 record, diba? USD was only 7-7 this season. I hope we get that same get that same excitement come season 87. Teams are starting to recruit. I'm sure you have a lot of information, Habs. But thank you for having me on the show. I love going on your show. If you guys want to check out where to get our caps, I think it's available on our Instagram link. You can also follow our Instagram Boleros PH. Thank you.
You guys go check out the Boleros Instagram account. Maybe you'll see some workout videos of Gab there every now and then. No, but really happy you're here, Maui. You guys did an awesome job all season as well with your podcast. You guys will keep doing content during the off season, I'm guessing.
Yes, definitely. Actually, after this episode tonight, we'll come up with our season recap also, I think, and
Mm.
maybe a special guest.
Oh, so you have a player coming on?
Yeah, yeah, a
Okay,
player
from
coming on.
from what team?
I'll leave it to a surprise because if I say the team, we'll probably already know who we're getting.
Okay. Is it one of the teams from the finals? That one na lang.
No. It's one of an
Okay.
upcoming players.
Okay,
Uh,
interesting. Well, we're looking forward to checking that out. Make sure you guys go check that episode. And I want to just answer a quick question here on the playback. Any thoughts on Froilan Maglasang from ADC? I wrote an article about him on All Star Magazine, and right now, no team is actually recruiting him, which is funny because he was Finals MVP in Sasafi Juniors. He was a mythical five member. He was a 3-point shootout champion. And I don't think he will be left unrecruited for long. Trust me, since that article came out, some schools have already been inquiring. So more on that come January. So let's get to UAP season 88. There are some recruitment news that have come out already. Yours truly has been reporting about some of them. Ateneo has been very active, which I'm sure makes Maui and his Boleros teammates very happy. Quick note on Grayson Rogers, your new Phil-Am standout. I saw assistant coach Louis Alas during the finals, game 3, and we got to speak for a bit. And he's like, Grayson Rogers, there will be some adjustment, pero magaling eh. Shooting, size. He's not Shawnee Winston, and I would not go as far as to compare him to Shawnee Winston, who was a beast in college. But in terms of physical stature, shooting prowess, and like the build, parang NBA 2K build, right? You know, when you create a my player in NBA 2K, my build, that's what the build is for Grayson Rogers, Shawnee Winston. And I think he's going to have at least 4 years eligibility. So there's a lot of time for the development. And then of course Ateneo also recruited the three standouts from the Maggie Eagles, guys who are long, lean, can play basketball, and they're gonna be key pieces as Ateneo continues to build towards the future. Although there's some pressure for the Blue Eagles because that Baldwin has 1 year left on his contract as the Ateneo Blue Eagles head coach. And I think at the least he will have to make the final four for this partnership to continue moving forward. That's my assumption. Another piece of recruitment news I wrote about this 2 days ago. I was told by UP Fighting Maroons team patron John Vic Remulla that Andy Gema will be joining the team for season 88. Now, take note, Andy has 1 year of high school basketball left. So, technically, if he does join UP for season 88, there would be no residency. A lot of people have commented that on Facebook. It would be straight out of high school. He would be eligible right away. Whose spot he would take on the team, well, that's always a competition. It's about who performs best in practices in an off-season tournament. So we'll see. But of course, also let's say out of nowhere, Andy gets a potential offer from America or a school in Canada. I'm sure he would consider taking it. But right now, which what my report indicated was the expectation is he will join the team in season 88, and that was told to me by team patron John Vic Remulla. But of course, everything's flexible in college basketball, so we'll see what happens. So that's some of the recruitment pieces as of now. There will be more that develops over the next few months, especially as we get closer to NBTC. For LaSalle, I mentioned a few weeks ago that they're looking at two possible Phil-Am prospects to bring in. Two relatively tall Phil-Am prospects, but I can't give you the exact specifics just yet. So when we talk about season 88, Maui, I guess my first question for you is, are we looking at a UP LaSalle 1-2 to some degree? And are we looking at, the makings of a trilogy, a finals trilogy, similar-ish to Ateneo UP a few years ago? But this one would be 3 consecutive years. What do you think? Is it LaSalle and UP still and everyone follows?
Yeah, I think early on we can say that it's probably gonna be a trilogy for LaSalle and UP, diba? LaSalle is going to replace KQ with a myriad of players. Amos is coming, Cortez, Baclaan, Pablo, and some other recruits. I'm sure during the off season they'll look to bolster their lineup, especially since they lost that very tight finals to UP this season. As far as UP goes, they're losing JD, but they're getting Remogat and potentially Himao. So I would think that they still have enough talent to be able to make the finals. I think their biggest threat or biggest problem right now could be losing QMB, because QMB I would say is probably one of the most underrated UAAP players the whole season, diba? Except during the finals, he finally showed out also on the offensive end, so people started to notice his impact. But I think QMB's impact is just spectacular, especially with regards to rebounding, defending the paint, and of course yung leadership, di ba? What he brought to the table was basically 5 years of Division One experience from the US. I think I saw even a tweet si Ryan Alba shared that QMB shared some of the plays that he learned from Jerry Stackhouse when during his time in Vanderbilt. I think that level of talent, that level of professionalism, really came a long way for QMB and UP. I really thought that they were a better team. They became a better team once they were able to get QMB. Maybe they just adjusted during parts of the season, which is why they lost some of their games. But sayang, I would have wanted to see a lot of QMB and Mike Phillips more. It's such it's sad that we only got to see that only for 3 games. I think 4 if you count the regular season. QMB was out during the second round, but I think both teams have enough talent from top to bottom, especially UP. But they always say that they have 16 strong. But LaSalle also has, I would say, a very talented lineup with Abadam also coming back. I'm sure that Makalalag and Golena will play better next season. They have the problem solved with that point guard slot. I would think that Amos could fill a certain void that KQ left, playing the 4, the 3. Pablo is also there to do that. But I'm very high on Mike Phillips. I've loved how he has been developed. If you watched him during his rookie season, he was
Except the
basically
free throws.
yeah, except the free throws during the
Everything
finals.
else, though, yeah.
Everything else has really been developed. He's starting to look for his 3-point shot. Maybe he could work on his free throws the whole off season. What I've loved with how Coach Topex has used si Mike Phillips is he's using him as an offensive hub. Diba? He's creating at the top of the key. He's basically giving him freedom to really improve his game. And I would love to see him play the pick and roll with those two very flashy point guards, Baclaan and Cortez. So yeah, I think the early if you look at the early reviews for season 88, it's probably gonna be LaSalle versus UP, but who knows? Maybe we're on for another crazy off season of recruitment and player transfers. Let's see what unfolds first, diba? Maybe we'll get a better idea. I think the first major tournament is probably Pinoy Liga, same as last season. Maybe we'll get an idea there if they are really miles and away from the other teams. Kasi this season they were. I would say they were. They were the whole season. Both UP and LaSalle were on another tier, I would say.
Exactly. The only time that they kind of slipped was when UP had that what I would call burn the tape game against NU, where everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and everything that could have gone right for the Bulldogs went right. And for LaSalle, that game was against UE, where they were absolutely horrific from the field, and UE had their best shooting game ever, and KQ missed 2 clutch free throws. But other than those games, really, they kind of established themselves as the best of the best. LaSalle also lost an NU game late in the season, which in retrospect now you might look back and some people say, oh, those were the warning signs. But honestly, they had the number 1 seed secured at that point. That brings me kind of to my next question, though, because if we were to predict another team to play the role of spoiler and eliminate one of LaSalle or UP before the finals, which team would you have the most faith in? Let's start with you. Which
Yeah.
team do you think is most likely to be spoiler?
I think the comment section already spoiled my team. It has to be USD. We're talking about the team who has the biggest chance to be a spoiler. Come season 88, they were the third seed this season. They played pretty well against during the final four, and they're looking to. Cabanero and Padriga will be playing their final year, so I'm sure that they're gonna be fired up for next season. Motong Kara will get another year of experience, but it has
If
to be
he's the
you.
FSA.
if he's their FSA, I think that's gonna be. I would be surprised if they change their FSA. I thought that Tokara was at certain points of the season probably the best FSA last season. I don't know how the landscape of the FSAs will change come season 8-8. It was a bit disappointing, most of them last season. But I would say it has to be UST. Diba? The team that could potentially be the one that could be spoilers. Adamson is just a fringe. As of now, I would say a fringe Final Four team. UE is, as we've seen, fallen out of grace during, to put it lightly, during the second round of last season. So there's actually no other team that could, I would say this early on, could potentially be that spoiler. Maybe FEU, if you talk about an underdog team, maybe another year with Sean Chambers in that core could be a contender. But I would say that they're still young, and their main goal is really to make the Final Four for the uh, just to make it to the Final Four, and then maybe see. Maybe they're in the same realm as UST was during this season. So I don't know if they're ready to take that next step. But yeah, it's got to be UST. Diba? They have a lot of players leaving, top tier players. I think they have to maximize the final year of Padrigao and Cabanero. It's gonna be hard to find players to fill that gap when they leave. So it might be another rebuild for them.
See, I think 3 and 4 to some degree will be UST and NU, assuming NU is healthy. But from those two teams, I kind of like NU more if NU is healthy. Now, their FSA situation, of course, has to be solved because are they going to have Omar John do another year? Are they going to wait for Modi Asana to recover completely in time? Because it's really a 1 year recovery process, and he got injured the start of the season. So that means he'll only start properly playing the 1 or 2 months leading up to the season, which is tough considering you need a preseason to really get into the thick of things with your teammates, the chemistry, the flow, the rhythm. Or are they going to have that man child of an FSA called Collins Akowe from the high school division, who is an absolute beast, come in? And the question is, can a high school FSA immediately come into the college situation, the college ranks, and dominate? And for Collins, I think yes. In fact, my early hot take is I think Colin Sokoa is going to be the best FSA next season in the UAAP if he is the FSA of NU. I 100% believe that. I'm not saying he's going to be the best big man in the UAP. I'm just saying he's going to be the best FSA in the I think Mike Phillips is going to be the best big man next season. That's
Agree. I
just me.
agree.
And I know people are going to say, oh, but you have Mo Tongkara, you have Mo Konate. I think Akowe is going to be the best because he's going to be playing, assuming he commits to NU, which, right now we'll see, right? But you can never be too sure. But if he does commit to NU, he's been playing with the Jeff Napa system for a while because Jeff Napa also handles the high school program. He has gotten used to that school. He'll probably get used to his teammates. And let's not forget, the NU guys are going to be veterans next season. Assuming everyone returns, Jake Figueroa, fifth year, Manansala, fifth year, two long, lengthy wing players who will give so many headaches to opponents. Reynard Yumamo in his third year, Tebol Garcia in his second year, Vince Reyes, who wasn't lined up last season, coming in. Where NU kind of has the limitations is the shooting, the 3-point shooting. That's their number one weakness. And if there's two things I think that could potentially limit NU, who I thought would have been the third seed this season if their FSA was healthy, I think one, it's the lack of outside shooting, and number two, it's the crowd support. Because if you get in a Final Four contest, NU versus UP or NU versus LaSalle, the crowd disparities is going to be huge, right? Even against UST, the crowd support is going to be a big advantage for UST. But in terms of talent, on paper, fit, coaching, I like NU. I think they're neck and neck with UST right now. But I think people are sleeping on NU. Do you think people are sleeping on NU? Because I think so.
Yeah. I think they are the same way that people slept on Adamson. Remember, as you mentioned, they basically have the same core coming back. It's you're right. It's gonna be the question is gonna be who's gonna be the FSA, and I agree. I think Akowe would be the best fit for them. They have to wait for Diazana. I don't think Omar John can bring them further up. I think Omar John has already peaked for NU. I think the team has speak with him also. That's one of the main reasons why I think Deasana was the option for season 86 and why we were high on them on our podcast. But I think Okowe could be the best option. Kasi he will have 5 full playing years. He is basically you mentioned it. He's already played in Jeff Napa's system the past few seasons. He will not adjust to the game in the UAAP in the Philippines because he's been here the past few seasons. I think I would say that he's probably gonna start practicing with NU and hopefully NU can retain his services. I think he's their best option because he gets it. Diba? He gets the culture. He knows what it is to how it is in NU, how to play with the team, how to play with the system. I would be surprised if they lost Akowe. If I were NU, that would be my priority number one for this off season. But you're right. I'm sure that people are not sleeping on NU. Remember, they played the whole season without an FSA and still won games
against
against UP
UP
and
and
Lasal.
LaSalle.
The only team to beat those two teams, diba? During the calendar year, not just the UAAP,
Exactly.
diba? So that's they still achieve things during the previous season. It's just that for you to succeed in the UAAP, you have to have an FSA, diba, to be consistently good.
Mm-mm.
And they were,
Ateneo would know that after last season, right?
yeah, Ateneo would also know
Maui,
that.
are you still one of the stakeholders of the Balogun Believers Club?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I think we've been very vocal on our podcast that we don't want Balogun to be there for next season and would be surprised. Sorry to Balogun, but I don't think he has the skills to be able to play. He was basically unplayable, diba, during the second round. And Ateneo would have to have another FSA if
But
they
but
wanted to.
but Maui, did you know Balogun can bench press almost 350 pounds?
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't know that. But yeah, I think grabe yung hype dun sa CEU boys. I think also
Mm.
Agunane performed a lot under what was expected, 'di ba? But I think Balogun's main problem was really fouling. He fouls a lot, he
Couldn't
complains
move
a
his
lot,
feet.
couldn't move his feet. I don't know if another season could be the best option for Ateneo, but it was also weird the whole off season drama with Balogun, but we'll see. From what I hear from my friends from Ateneo, there are a number of FSAs trying to get to the team. Maybe we'll get a better idea once we get closer to the tournaments.
It's so funny how, as we're talking right now on this podcast, Colin Sakoe just messaged me on Messenger. And should I add? Nah, I'm not gonna ask him. Let's let him enjoy Christmas first in the upcoming UAB season. But shout out to my guy Colin Sakoe, a future beast. I'll tell you this: I think Ateneo is seeking a new FSA for next season, and I do want to salute the 1 year, which became known as the rise of the Balogun Believers Club. I know there's still shareholders and stockholders of BBC from the Navs Effect community, so respect to all of you for keeping the faith, but I think it's going to change. I'll tell you what, Ateneo should probably try to go after Colin Sakoe. Um, he's the kind of big man that they need for the roster they have, which will be what we use to segue to the next topic. First off, though, we're in agreement. LaSalle UP 1-2 some order, NU UST 3-4 some order, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That leaves 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 5 and 6 is FEU Ateneo. Them, those teams to me are the year away from. speaking in the context of season 88, a year away from being Final Four contender teams, meaning they're not gonna be terrible, but they're not gonna be great. And I know I'm saying this with the information that Coach Tab Baldwin is going to be very motivated to make the Final Four next year, which obviously gives me cause to pause because it's Coach Tab and we know the kind of work that he can do. But at the same time, season 87 displayed to us that sometimes the reality of having that kind of roster can limit you no matter how good you are as a coach. So to me, Ateneo and FEU are a year away from being Final Four contender teams, meaning they're young, they're on the rise. They're gonna have games where they're gonna keep it close against contenders like LaSalle, UP, UST, and U. But because of their youth and lack of firepower, they might not be able to close them out in the fourth quarter, but they're still gonna be fun, and I think teams will be sleeping on them, and I think they'll have the potential to upset certain opponents. But yeah, I think Ateneo FEU, maybe FEU 5, Ateneo 6 will be where I envision them finishing in these early predictions. How about for you? Where do you see FEU and Ateneo?
I'd probably place FU in the same place, number 5. But for number 6, I would place Adamson at number 6 just because they have also the same 4 coming up. If we have a season where it was similar to season 86, where teams where it was very hard to get to the final four, where everyone was competitive, I would say that Adamson could be that dark horse team to make it to the final four again, just because they have the same system, they have the same players, they have the same star players. It's continuity is very important, diba? Because some teams will have to adjust. You talk about Ateneo, you talk about FEU. That's one of the reasons why FEU struggled. I think in season 86, they had a bunch of new players, a lot of rookies playing. So they had to have some time to brew and to really get that chemistry going, despite playing well no off season. We all know that the UAAP is a different beast. If you perform in Phil Oil, if you perform in any other tournaments, it doesn't matter when we get to the UAAP, diba? I think certain teams have showed that in the past. LaSalle was a contender during the preseason but didn't perform well. I think in season 84, if I'm right. But that's the reality of things, diba? The UAP is a different beast. We really know everything when we see them play, and I think that Adamson's edge right now is them having that same core and having that consistency and continuity going for them. When you talk about Ateneo, of course, I could be biased and say that I would rank them at number 5, but we have to see first what happens during the off season. We have to see how they bolster their lineup, diba? Kasi Coach Tab can only do so much. I think with too many limitations last season, we saw how Ateneo struggled. It's gonna be a very long off season, and I'm not surprised that Ateneo was one of the first teams that announced that they're going to recruit a few players already, diba? Kasi they have to bolster that lineup until I see them have a decent FSA and probably another one or two decent more big men. I would be suspect of them making to the final four. UP and LaSalle have a ton of good big men, diba? And NU are men, as you said. They can play without an FSA, as they showed last season, and they will play better with an FSA. I think UST is the only team, or maybe UE is the team that you could play without an FSA, just because they only have their FSA as that main big man. Diba? Other teams have a lot of big man options. NU as Palacelo and the slew of other big man. I think for Ateneo to make it to the final four, they have to have 2 to 3 more big men. I think they have to slide Porter to the 4. I think that's what Christian Porter also wants. Diba? He doesn't want to play as a 6'3", 6'4" big man. He doesn't want to play against those FSCs, but had to play against them and still did, I would say, a good job. But for Ateneo to be able to, for Ateneo to be considered as a Final Four contender, we'll have to have news on big men. Diba? I think that's very important. When you talk about the UAP, it's always the point guard and the FSA.
So the next team here is Adamson, and Adamson to me is the ultimate swing team for season 88, like they were for 87, because I can imagine them being seventh, but I can also imagine them going up to fourth, because I can imagine a world where they could be better than FEU, they could be better than Ateneo. Probably right now they're better than Ateneo right now, because Ateneo, it will depend on the development of their young guys. I don't think they're better than UST, and I don't think they're better than a healthy NU, but I would give them a chance. So that's why I think they could be fourth or seventh. And I believe Manzano, Hierro, and Montebon are coming back, so they have a lot of the main core. And we'll have to wait and see if they can recruit. Once again, the question for Adamson is, can they recruit their high school standouts like Medina, who is a beast, right?
Yeah.
If they can recruit the high school standouts and add some youth talent. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if Hierro is Hierro gonna. I'll have to double check on Hierro, but I know
I think
Manzano.
he's graduating.
Yeah.
Yero,
So I
if
think
I'm not
Hierro is,
mistaken.
yeah. So Manzano and Montebon, the two main guys. But if they can get some of the young guys to join the team from the high school ranks, if the other young standouts like Erolon and Mantua can continue developing, then you can see a path for Adamson to contend for the Final Four once again. And the one key guy here, I think, is AJ Fransman. People forgot that AJ Fransman was unable to play in the Final Four because he had chickenpox, unfortunately, and had to sit out that contest. But if he can continue to develop into that dependable wing who's like a Jake Figueroa type of player, because we know he has the physical tools to do that, then that could be the key for Adamson to once again contend for the Final Four. Which also leaves us with UE, who is kind of in limbo right now,
Yeah.
because it remains to be seen whether they'll bring back Coach Jack Santiago. His contract expires end of January. We'll see. They haven't really come to a final decision on that yet, although some people have mentioned that they're leaning a certain way, but again, we'll see. Precious Momoe expected to be back. John Abate has one season left, but UE is also losing some firepower with Jack Cruz Dumont no longer going to be there, although his brother Cole Cruz Dumont is going to be there. Look, I'm not saying that UE's not a good team because they have talent, but this is why it was really horrible for them to miss the Final Four in season 87, because this was a transition year for so many other squads, right? Like, it was a transition season for Ateneo. It was a transition season for FEU. It was a transition season for NU, who lost their FSA.
Yeah.
And then UE already started the season 6-3. They had the upper hand against Adamson and still faltered late. And now, when you look at next season, and there's usually one or two teams that will end up being facing injury issues or some other problems, like a player suddenly leaving, that could open the door for opportunity. But when you just look at the rest of the UAAP getting better, it feel a little bit like UE lost it, like the window closed for UE to be a Final Four team.
I would say yes. I agree with you. I think that they should have made the Final Four. Coach Jack could have easily been the coach also for next season. I think the comment section on your playback is on point. Will there be UE players leaving their team? I think that's the biggest question for this off-season. Diba? Kasi if Coach Jack will not be the coach for next season, then some of the guys who are loyal to him might decide to go to the NCAA. Will we see a new FSA? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if Precious will still decide to play if it's not Jack and Santiago anymore. But that fall during the second round, I think I've said this numerous times on our podcast. I don't think I've seen that much of a fall of any UAAP teams in a season. Diba? They could have made the Final Four with just one win during those last few games. It wasn't pretty. I don't know. It looked like they weren't adjusting to how teams were starting to cover them during the second round. Precious Momoe, I don't think was utilized the best way during last season. You can say that they still overperformed last season, but it's hard to say that just because of where they were at certain points during last season. They should have made that Final Four, and I would say that they could potentially go into a full rebuild if it's not Coach Jack coaching the team next season. They did pretty well, diba? Sa junior high school, I think they were champions. Maybe it's that time to revamp the whole program, not just a seniors program, but also the juniors program. Maybe I don't know, is SGA confirmed as their backer? I think that could potentially be a big thing also for UE, having that chest, that war chest to go after recruits and get a new coach, a new system. A lot of questions definitely for UE going into season 87. I would think it would all depend if they decide to keep Coach Jack after his contract. If they don't keep Coach Jack, I think it's gonna be full rebuild, or maybe they fill the gap and try to get one and dones, a lot of one and dones and two and throughs. But we could potentially see a very different UE lineup again for another season come season 87. That's been the trend for UE every season since maybe 3 to 5 seasons already. I think the way to go in the UAAP is to build a culture. I think that's where LaSalle really did a good job with hiring Coach Topex. They cannot keep on just recruiting one and dones to compete during the season. I think you really have to build a culture to be able to be a good team. UP is probably the only team that could do that, not build a culture and just recruit all of the top talent, diba? But they still have Coach Gold, who has been a mainstay. They still have that coaching staff who has been a mainstay in UP. So it's pretty hard to challenge recruitment, but having SGA could potentially spell the difference. Let's see.
I did get to ask Boss Frank Lau about it during the finals. At least for now, I don't think he's keen to put in the support for UE's college program just yet. We'll see in the future, but I think for now it's status quo. And I feel like Tanduay is still, the one who's really running things there. But we'll see. I kind of envision a transition period for UE in season 88. All right, let's end the podcast here, Maui, with some predictions. I want to get it from your end. Give me your Final Four, Finals, Champion, and MVP prediction. League
For next
MVP
season,
for next
this
season.
early.
Yeah, very. I know it's very early, but what the heck? Might as well, right? What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, I would say that my final four prediction could be, obviously it's gonna be UP and LaSalle with that top two slots. The third slot is, I would say, also UST. It gets challenging when you talk about the fourth slot. Will Ateneo surprise? Will UE also surprise? I don't know. Anything can happen. Will Adamson be that steady team who could also be that dark horse, steady presence to make that final four? But as of the moment, I would probably say I would put my trust in Coach Tab and be biased for now and say that Ateneo could surprise and make the final four for next season. I would think that Tuano will take that next step. Bahay, after one season, will take that next step. But again, it will all depend if they could get that decent FSA and probably another big men, some other big men. I'm not sure if the Ateneo de Cebu big men are capable to play in the final four, to play in the UAAP seniors level. That still remains to be seen. But for now, I would say Ateneo or NU could potentially be that fourth slot. I could argue that Ateneo was one good FSA away from making the final four last season. But that was how close last season was. And I could say that NU would have made that final four if Deasana wasn't injured. For my finals prediction, it has to be LaSalle and UP again. Diba? They still have that talent from top to bottom. Diba? I think they are the favorites to still make that final four. I'm excited to see Jacob Cortez, to be honest, play in the UAAP. Diba? We've seen Amos, we've seen Baklaan, and we know what they can do I want to see Jacob Cortez and see if how he does against UAP talent. Again, it's still different when it's the UAP season. He's doing pretty well now during the off season and during other tournaments, but it's a different beast, diba? When you talk about the UAP, uh, Finals MVP. MVP. Finals champion for next season. I would probably say back to back
Balogun.
for UP if they get him out. I would say back to back for UP if they get Andy Himao. That's how big I think that gap he could fill for having Remogat and Himao to replace Kagulangan. That's crazy. But I would say they could back to back. Lasal kasi will be integrating a lot of star players into their system, 'di ba? Unlike UP, who's probably going to be integrating one or two pieces only, key pieces. So I think UP has the upper hand. If you ask me right now, but anything can still happen during the off season, 'di ba? Maybe Amos Baclaan and Cortez and Pablo, they're developing chemistry playing for Lasal B. So maybe they right off the bat, maybe they're fantastic. Come opening of the UAAP, MVP for next season, I would say Mike Phillips is the favorite. Definitely, he was the number two player. He will rack up stats, rebounds, steals, blocks, points, and some playmaking. Hopefully, better free throw shooting. I think that would be key if Lasal is to get that title back. His three point shooting and probably his free throws are going to be two very key things because he will get to the line. I would say against UP could get to the line ten or more times in all games, especially now that they don't have QMB. Diba? He should dominate that matchup. I don't know if UP has any other tricks under their sleeve to get other big man, but if it's gonna be Gary Stevens, gonna be Sean Alter, Ododu, or Anongkara, I think Mike Phillips has the upper hand right now. I would say that he's a favorite by a mile away. Probably the same way KQ was for this season, except that he challenged KQ for this season. Is that it? I think I covered everything you wanted.
I think you did for sure. For my part, I would say that I think Mike Phillips will win MVP. I think it's going to be UP LaSalle in the finals again. And who wins, I think, will be determined over the next few months about whether or not UP can solve that QMB sized hole in the front court. Because I've mentioned this in the last podcast episode. I think QMB was the real finals MVP in
Same,
season
same. All
87.
of us in our podcast said that also.
Yeah. And he was such an absolute game changer. The defense, the offense, the IQ, the clutch prowess, the in a game where emotions can run rampant and energy can be 1 minute really big and then another minute it could actually work the other way for you. The fact that he stayed even keeled and steady, I thought was an area UP really needed. That steadying presence.
Exactly.
So who will they get to fill in that hole? It's not going to be easy, especially assuming Mike Phillips will be in a LaSalle uniform next season and playing in that series. That to me will determine the finals. Right now, I think it's really a toss up. And I think UST and U to some degree, 3 and 4. Anyway, we have a lot of time to unpack what else is going to materialize leading up to UAAP season 88. A lot of exciting months to come, especially with recruitment, who stays, who goes, who comes in, and who might be transferring spots. Maui, thank you so much for joining me on this
Thank you,
podcast.
sir, for
My
inviting me again.
pleasure. My pleasure. It's always great to see you guys doing good. And best of luck with your episode tonight with an up and coming player you mentioned that you're going to have in the episode. So I'm sure many people will be excited to tune into that. And more power. Best of luck to you guys. Stay safe. And thanks again, Maui. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, whether you watch live or you're going to be listening to this on replay. Just a reminder, one more episode before the year ends for the Navs Effect podcast. We're going to have a UAP player on as well. That's going to be recorded on Monday morning at 9 a.m. So if you're up early on Monday, December 23, come join us for that episode. I think you guys will have fun. We're also looking for sponsors and brands to partner with and work with for 2025. So if you guys know anyone or you have brands that you think might want to work with the Navs Effect podcast for the next year, feel free to send me a message on social media and let's discuss. I'm sure there are a lot of possibilities that we can unfurl there. So I'm looking forward to all of that. And again, a lot of thanks to those who've been tuning into the episodes the last few weeks. It's been an absolute delight to record this podcast. And trust me when I say we are going to kick things up a notch in 2025. And I can't wait to get into that. But yes, for now, enjoy your Sunday, enjoy your weekend. Merry, 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 Merry Christmas and advance Happy New Year. Much love, everyone. Peace.